Welcome to another Customer Spotlight webinar. My name is Stephen Bowles, and I'm really excited to really talk today about virtual events and talk with someone who's really just a pro in terms of knowing how to navigate this new world of virtual events and just kind of the nuances of pulling off the tech and all that stuff. But before I bring him on and introduce him, just a little bit about Shoflo. So if this is your first time engaging with us, we're really just all about providing a suite of tools for live event producers, whether that's someone who's doing full-on, full-scale kind of large venue production, even though it might be virtual right now, or even just lightweight kind of internal meetings. It could be game presentation, trying to engage with your fans, whatever that might be. We've got a suite of tools that could really make, hopefully, your lives easier. That's really measured in the rundown, which is about keeping your team in sync and having really a plan for how to navigate your show. The prompter, which is just the way you stay sharp, and it's how you get your presenter to feel comfortable and so where they can actually present in front of you. And then studio, which is actually what we're producing this entire show inside of today, which is really all about bringing in remote presenters, adding in graphics, adding in media, and then producing a really wonderful show easily. So anyways, that's a little bit about us. You can always learn more about Shoflo at shoflo.tv, but that is not what we're here to talk about today. Today we're here to talk about virtual events, and I'm excited to introduce my guest, Augustin Perret. So welcome, Augustin.
Hello. Thank you very much. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you for having me tonight.
Well, tonight for you, the morning for us, or I guess somewhat the afternoon.
Yeah, tonight, sorry, 9 p.m. here.
So where are you in the world, Augustin?
I'm in Geneva, Switzerland. Awesome. So it is 9 p.m.
I have visited Switzerland, and it is like one of my most wonderful places, and I can't wait to take my wife back there too. It's literally on the list of places we want to travel to, and she seems to always win. I'm not sure why, but Switzerland's my first one. So, well, welcome, man. And I guess just like to kind of set the stage, you've got a couple of really cool stories and content around kind of how you guys have adapted and are navigating the 2020 climate. But for everyone here on the webinar today and who's watching with us or watching this later, the basic sort of run of show or rundown of this will be, we're going to hear from Augustin. I'm going to kind of just do fireside chat, talk with him a little bit about how he's navigating virtual events and streaming and producing inside of that. If you have any questions, please use our comments and Q&A section that we've got already. JP Chat, who's there, and Matt Peterson as well from our team will be capturing those, shipping them our way, and then we'll put them on and off the screen as needed. And then we're going to have a dedicated 10 or 15 minutes at the very end just to go through any outstanding questions that we didn't get to. But so one of my favorite things, and one of the reasons we brought Augustin on for this webinar, we thought would be really helpful for you guys and our greater audience to kind of learn from is he was doing streaming way before it was cool, or maybe you might say necessary, given this climate. You know, when he's been actually, I think you've got something you'll share later, but he's been with Shoflo since like 2016, just really leaned in quick into the value of a rundown, the value of keeping your crew in sync. But it wasn't only just because he did physical events backstage where you might have, you know, crew members and printouts and all that jazz. It was because he was already supporting sort of these hybrid, if not fully virtual events for years. And now, granted, maybe Zoom wasn't what the primary tool of the day, or even vMix at that time, and certainly not Studio, but now it could be. The problem space was the same. How do you communicate with presenters? How do you organize the distribution of your stream? How do you have that conversation, both like with the presenters, but also have a backstage communication channel for your crew members when your crew isn't even in the same city? And so just pumped to have him tell more about that story. So with that, I'll stop talking. And Augustin, I'd love it if you could just kind of, just start with where did you come from, and how did you even get into live and virtual events? Yeah,
thank you very much, Stephen. So, well, basically, I started in the industry a while ago. I think it was 15 years ago. From a sound guy background, moved through different roles to video and then to productions. I worked for a company called Dorier for about 8 years in Geneva, and then I decided to move on to set up my own company called Ad Productions. And that was actually in January 2020, so all very new for me. So Ad Productions, I won't talk too much about it. You will see in a minute. But basically, it's just a company doing event productions in the simplest possible way. The idea being to focus as much as possible on, as you said, what I like doing and what I've been doing for a while, digital events. Let's call them like this. Hybrid virtual events, whatever you want to call them. I'm also one of the co-founders of GoRemote, GoRemote.team, with my two business partners, Ben and Luc, who are here with us, I hope, now. Basically, GoRemote was started in June this year, so it's even fresher. It's a startup company focusing on virtual stage management services. I will explain to you in a minute what we do in a nutshell. So Ad Productions, again, very quickly, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but the idea is to propose technical production services to clients and clients agencies, whether it's consulting for events organizers, or from the design of the event, providing all the crew that might be needed, show callers, producers, video team, whatever. As I said, trying to focus on virtual hybrid digital events, webcasting of all sorts, and show calling, which is what I've been doing for a while, and what I enjoy doing the most, I guess. That's the fun bit of it, is using the rundown of Shoflo. GoRemote, as I said, new startup started in June this year. The idea is, it's since COVID, basically, that we had the idea of putting together GoRemote. We realized this big gap in the virtual event world, where everybody's focusing on the platform, which is very good, and we need a Shoflo studio, but the speakers and what's happening on the virtual stage is actually left to the side, and we want to focus on that. What a normal stage manager would do back in the days, if you remember, in the normal life, is to look after the speakers, make sure they're confident, make sure they look good and they sound good, they know how to advance their slides or know how to look at the camera and these kind of things. You want to create the same thing remotely. People are lost, speakers are lost, our event organizers, our clients are lost. We're lost anyway. They're getting better after a year of it. But the idea is to support the speakers, support the stage, and we developed a bunch of tools, systems that have been developed internally to provide some kind of live dashboard to the events organizers, so they can see where the speakers are at all time. Are they here? Are they being briefed? Do they have a problem? Are they ready to go on stage? Doing the pre-event check ahead of the event, and providing this kind of metrics to the clients, so they know that, this speaker is actually has an issue, and he won't be able to make it. We need to set some time with him, and yeah. Automated lots of systems. I can talk for hours about it, and that's not the point here. This is GoRemote.
That's been a big problem space, and a big reason, we even got into it ourselves with studio, but just as a producer and as a show caller, we lost access to all the things that we took for granted, but that just kind of magically appeared backstage because some rental and staging company provided ClearCom or RTS, or give you your multi-view, out of front of house, or, whatever your situation is. All these sort of standard, routine, professional, production support systems just got blown up, and we all had to just kind of figure out, how do I? Even if I can get the presenter on a Zoom with me, and even if I can control which Zoom source is being fed into a Blackmagic or whatever it is, how am I going to talk to them? How am I going to let them know that they're running long or late or whatever it is? And so anyways, yeah, it's a big challenge space. And even though it's getting refined more and more, We all got blown up by that at the same time, which is pretty nuts.
Yeah. So anyway, that's co-remote. And what I wanted to do tonight is basically explain to you how I've been using Shoflo. As you said, I started using Shoflo back in 2016 with Dorier. I haven't stopped since. What I wanted to do is prepare a couple of slides just to show you in 2020 how I've used Shoflo, because I thought when I thought about it, I've been using it across a wide range of events in January, February, March, before COVID was a thing, and then since then, of course, and I'm using many different features of Shoflo depending on the occasion, basically. So the first one was this event. So my client was actually Dorier, working for Al Production, working for Dorier, luxury client. And this is one of these multiplex events. As you said, we've been doing them for a while. This one was one main site in Lausanne, Switzerland, and 9 remote hubs all around the world across 6 time zones. That was actually the biggest challenge. My role here was to manage the remote hubs. So I was in what we call the nodal in Paris with a team, a beautiful team of amazing people. And my role was to basically, there was a whole production, a big show, 2,000 speakers, 2,000 delegates, I think, in Lausanne, and a massive stage. And my role was to look after all the other hubs, doing checks with them, with Tokyo and Clearwater the day before the event. We didn't sleep a lot. So yeah, that was my role, coordinating these hubs, using Shoflo for this. I ended up, the Shoflo, here's a quick screenshot of what it looked like. It ended up being extremely simple. It's just a screenshot of the beginning of the show, but basically because it was kind of top down from Lausanne to all the other hubs, it was pretty much, yeah, everybody's watching the show. There was a bit of interaction at some point. They had the moment to do the Mexican wave and stuff like that, but there was not much to cue in this sense.
Augustin, how are you guys doing the comm in that situation? Was it like Readle, or what were you using for that?
No, well, so basically we're using the technology itself is called video. It's just, I guess we can call it a video conferencing system, but we're working with this company called Blue Motion, who have developed the hardware encoders and decoders that we normally ship on multi-site events, and basically this is how we get very, very low latency between hubs, and that's how you can get seamless communication between Tokyo and Clearwater in full HD, beautiful full HD broadcast quality. This is kind of comparing ourselves to the satellites, if we remember what it was.
If you can remember, the bird, I think that's what we always called it, the bird.
So basically, essentially what we're doing is we have another channel on the side of the multiplex, which is audio only, and we use small tablets, essentially, using the same way, the same video communication. We know how it's routed, and this is how we can make it go fast. It's because we own the routers. We deploy virtual routers in Asia, in the US, in Latin America, in Europe, to be as fast as possible and to own the IP route, basically. And we use the same way for the intercom, so we can chat. All the tech guys can chat.
That's cool.
Yeah, got a lot of pictures of the technical area behind the scene. That's how it looks like, and me working on Shoflo. This other event was also for Dorier, standard event, I guess, gala dinner in Geneva, Switzerland, for a charity. The challenge here was to use Shoflo for I think it was five LED screens, lots of artists, lots of different acts. I don't know how many auctions there were like prizes and everything. It was the whole night. So I was just calling the show and using Shoflo for for the show, and we had lots of 65-inch screens around the venue, stage left, stage right for the speaker entrance, the MC entrance, the artist entrance, and so on. So a normal way of using Shoflo rundown, if I may say.
Those were the days, back in the days, the normal days. So hold on, when was this? This was like right before it all hit, right?
That was
February?
January.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
February. I see that. To go through it. Everything seems like a long time ago, indeed.
It was ages ago. Yes.
That other one, again for Dorier, a multiplex event for association called ERS. 2020 was the third edition of this event. It started being a 8 hub across Europe. The second year was a 4 hub, a normal 4 hub, let's say, and this one was a 4 hub event across 2 days. And this is, this one was Brussels, Hamburg, Bucharest, Rome. So simplish event. And here we have essentially an audience in all those four venues. And we have a local team of a local crew, basically, operating each of these little hubs. And my role essentially is to be the show caller of the show callers. There's one person from my team in each of these hubs, giving cues to the technical staff, and I'm basically giving them their cues. And this was the main reason why I started using Shoflo, is for this kind of events. We did a lot of them with Dorier. I've done a lot of them since also. Basically, the challenge is how can we get consistency across all the hubs so it looks the same on all the screens. There's also a virtual audience I didn't mention, but there was about 2,000 people watching live. And this was before COVID. I insist, as you said, that was in February. It was planned like this. There's nothing to do with COVID. And basically, one day working on these cue sheets overnight, of course, the night before the show, as you do. One day, a few years ago, I had this kind of revelation, epiphany that actually it's quite binary. If you show this slide, essentially you're either a presenting hub or your receiving hub. Either you are under the spotlight and Brussels is speaking and everybody's watching Brussels, or Brussels is not speaking and everybody's watching whoever is speaking. So it's a lot of work in pre-production to make sure everything is consistent. So in all your in Hamburg, Bucharest, Rome, all the presets that are built on the graphic switcher, I think it was done with an ascender in each analog way ascender in each venue. We know what preset 3 is. So when we are on cue number 30, everybody is on preset 3 and Brussels is on preset 2. Again, this is just the beginning of the cue sheet, but there's a lot of cues. It's a 2-day event. And we try to go we try to have a broadcast approach, basically, and with main speaker comes on stage, send the lower third, bring on the PPT, do this kind of live video production of quality.
So I love that. You're basically a show caller of show callers. I think that's a pretty. If there's a pretty sweet title to have out there, that would be a pretty good one in the production world. So how does that work? Are you communication wise? How are you guys staying in communication? Chat? How are you? How does that actually look? Because typically a show caller, has their comm with their crew that's in venue, is pushing people to stage, or queuing a PA to push someone to stage, or is queuing a spider or a graphics operator to do X or Y or Z. So what are you actually queuing the show callers to do? Yeah,
well, basically, and if you want to show that slide, essentially, my role is at the nodal. Since COVID, actually, I'm doing that from my office. It takes a bit more monitors because you want to see all of this. But basically, I'm where all the signals are coming in, and from the nodal, we send signals to all the hubs. the idea is to send a video -1 to everybody, so they never see themselves on screen. Because of you would have like a back and forth latency. In Europe, it might be acceptable, but you're never, when you're putting it on screen, you've got too much latency. It's not looking good. So we send video and of course audio -1. So my role is basically to call this guy. We can't see him. Can we see him there when I'm pretending to work, having a coffee? This guy here is Sylvain. Sylvain is the video director, receiving all the feeds from all the hubs and sending all the feeds to all the hubs and sending the final program, the webcast program for the distant audience, which becomes actually the program. That's the sum of what we're doing should be shown on this 16:9 webcast program. So he's mainly the one I'm calling, and everybody at this stage. So if I go back to the cue sheet, this is my nodal preset. So when I say P10, at some point, basically because I can't call everybody has to follow Shoflo. They just actually, I just say standby for Q27 and 27 go, and they have to know what 27 means, and they have to be on Shoflo and follow Shoflo all the time. We are using the same intercom as I mentioned before. So intercom over IP using video in the back end, but it could be anything as long as it's routed through the same way as the rest of the actual signals.
So does all the other remote sites in this setup, are they tracking along to you as the single show caller? So you're leveraging the item runtime clock, and every remote location kind of has their own rundown up or Shoflo up in whatever device they've got, and then they're all tracking you, and you're kind of moving us forward. And then, but in terms of communication, you're mostly just calling in that control room, kind of like the master control room, and you're just calling which feeds to send and return, essentially.
So we have only one network. We're all on the same network.
Yeah.
So all the remote hubs hear me calling the nodal presets, essentially. Yeah. But I've been there. It's a real pain, I must admit. The guys in the hubs do have two headsets, so they're hearing me on their ear, and they have their normal intercom system to call their lighting guy, their video guy, their sound guy, and their stage manager, and so on.
The double headset is terrible.
Well, you will see another. I mean, at least one of them is a proper one, a proper comfortable one, because all the time it's this little headset like this one. I'm looking at hardware solutions. There are some out there. They're just extremely expensive, but and we need to do a lot of them to make it worth it. But somewhere where you can actually get the two signals, decide to who you want to speak and who you want to listen to. There are solutions, hardware solutions, which I think could be interface between different intercom systems. There are plenty out there. Maybe we'll get to developing it one day.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
And again, this kind of events. If I go back to this one, I insist. I've been using Shoflo essentially at the beginning. It was for a multi-site event like this one. One day for this client, actually, we did not use Shoflo because of stupid reasons, and I was forced to use Excel again, and that was the last time I said I would use Excel for a multi-site event or a hybrid event ever. Or if you want a Shoflo done under a rundown done under Excel, do it without me. This is impossible, literally impossible. You need this when you're working remotely, essentially. That one was the first COVID transformation event. So quite interesting. This one was for an agency called Egg Events, who got the Shoflo licenses since, actually. Basically, the tricky bit about this one was it was a normal congress supposed to happen it was scheduled in March in Barcelona in Spain, and they called us about 2 weeks before because of COVID, they wanted to make it online. So a week before, I was in a ski resort with my family, and I ended up spending hours in my car, not going skiing, snowboarding, sealing this deal, organizing this event 1 week before the first day of the event. It was about 60 remote speakers. We had to pre-test 60 remote speakers, build an event web app, build a Shoflo for a 4-day event, build all the presets. That's one of them. Again, we didn't sleep much. It was very interesting, and it was the first 100% virtual event. So it became that looks very familiar now, a mosaic of people shot with their webcam. But that was, back then, it was one of the first ones, early March.
So how are you communicating with the presenters here in this setup? Talk to me just about your basic virtual event sort of tech setup. How do you pull these things off? So
the interesting way of working, and again, this is done with this beautiful team of Blue Motion friends. You can see them all here. But basically, there we go. Here you can see an actual sound desk, an actual vision mixer, PowerPoint operators, and so on. So we are building this kind of same technical areas where what we would do normally. And what we do is all the remote speakers are alone in their room. So it's not like everybody joins a Zoom and everybody's in the same Zoom call. Everybody's in their own call. At the nodal, we receive all the different feeds, and we decide what we send. We take these feeds in, we create a program out of it, and we decide what we want to send. We send audio and video, of course. We send them the same program as what they see, and their cue is when you see yourself on the screen, it means that you're live. This is your kind of your tally. And in terms of communication, they are alone in the room. So just before I can ask the sound guy, I've got a microphone. It's tricky when you're also calling the show, but basically I've got a microphone plugged to the desk, and I want to speak to all these 8 rooms only and not to the program. And I can say, okay, you're live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. You're live. If somebody has an issue, I can send somebody real quick to jump in the room of this speaker because he's got an issue. So, okay, make sure he's not on screen, make sure he's on mute, and I can go quickly in his room and check their issue and bring them back on screen and this kind of thing. So it's actually the most comfortable way of managing remote speakers because they are alone. For them, it's a bit awkward because they only see themselves when the video director decides. But for us, technically, it gives us a lot of room for maneuver. Yeah, that's I think that format that you just described there is kind of the preferred method that seems to be what most everybody's handled, or how most any production company has handled this, is more that one-to-one Zoom or Skype or whatever that video conferencing is. Bring it all into a control studio, and the benefits of that is that you get the option to have control of what you're returning to any one of those presenters, that's a big deal. Exactly. Because that's been a big problem space. And it's actually one that we're trying to solve right now, specifically in the studio side, is how can we kind of give you a little bit more of that IFB conversation? How can you allow presenters to be in a dialogue with each other, even though when they're not necessarily live, and things like that. So that makes sense. And it doesn't surprise me that that's the kind of the path you guys went along the way. But yeah, I am following the development of Shoflo Studio closely, and definitely this is going to the right direction because you get you've got the advantage of being new, so you can take all the best of the best practice. But definitely this is the way forward. Absolutely. Cool, man. Well, hey, so we've got about 3 minutes before we'll switch into more of a Q&A mode, so let you bring it up. Sure, yeah, I'll move real quick. Sorry, I'm chatting too much. That one again for Dorier. Another virtual event in June, right in the middle of lockdown in France and Switzerland. We ended up in Zurich in this studio, shooting people, basically creating what ended up being a 3-day movie. And I used Shoflo. Everything was prompted, was scripted on the prompter, So I used Shoflo to put together all the scripts, make sure the story that the clients wanted to tell was the good one, and Shoflo became the Bible for the video editors, the video director doing the live. We were kind of shooting in live conditions, but of course in a green set. And Shoflo became the one place where all the scripts were put together, combined. When there was changes, it was in Shoflo, so it could be, the clients had an overview of it, the editors had an overview of it. And I take this screenshot.
Oh
This is
goodness.
just
What
this
is
is just the export of the Shoflo, the script column of Shoflo just for day one. So essentially, that was a new way of using Shoflo. I did not use it to actually prompt. The prompter operator wanted to use their own software. We should have. But yeah, that was an interesting way of using using Shoflo.
So basically, that wasn't a live stream. That was more, you were just producing and recording all of this stuff, but you still use Shoflo even in that format to kind of build the plan. Yeah, we've heard a lot of presenters aren't comfortable yet traversing the live virtual event space. So they'll do these pre-record. It's a standard kind of approach that we take right now. Yeah.
It was pre-recorded as live, so you still needed to make sure all the technicians knew what button to press at each time. But yeah, it's a different format.
That's cool.
And then real quick, I've got lots of these little ones. I'm not being impressed with my double headset. Alone in my office, which was not built yet, to be built, and being the one-man band, and I think it's just going to resonate to a lot of people. I think who've been doing, you're doing your bit of switching, you're doing media, you're doing PowerPoint, you're doing Shoflo, you're doing countdown, you're doing interactivity, all of it together. This one, different one, we built again for Dorier. That's my mate John. Big up, John. We built a green screen set in a hotel venue, and we had basically live. It was a live event shot on green in a virtual studio with remote speakers. So again, a new combination again, because you're doing a bit of green, a bit of live, and a bit of remote. And more with Ag events, a lot of these 100% virtual events in my shorts during the heat wave or eating.
That's one of the perks, of the COVID
exactly.
life. You get to
Nobody sees you.
Exactly. No, you don't even know if I'm wearing any pants right now. Who knows? It's unclear. I don't have to be honest.
And then a couple of events I'm going to finish with them. Actually, one more after, which Alt Productions actually produced, where we were setting up a studio in Geneva for EASL, their congress, about 7,000 delegates over 4 days. And we ended up having a studio in Geneva where everything was happening, or the studio sessions were happening, with remote speakers and everything orchestrated by a show caller that was on me in Paris. This one for ERS, large congress, 33,000 delegates over 4 days, 1,000 speakers, insane. And here we built four. Yeah, we built four Shoflo events essentially. For 4 studios in which there was a show caller in each, and basically everything was running on the Wirecast was the setup, lower thirds, media, PowerPoint, remote speakers over Zoom, lots of different sessions happening. And yeah, the setup was fairly simple in the studio, but times 4 on green screen. That's kind of how it looked like. And most importantly, that was the beer with the guys afterwards. Big up to the dream team.
Apparently, you weren't on a shelter and stay that night. Apparently.
Oh yeah.
the bar, the pub was open.
Yeah, luckily, yeah, that was the hotel rooms. And that's the last one. I promise. Again, I did quite recently for Dory Group. My role here for a digital summit for a tech company was to be essentially the producer. The event was completely pre-recorded, all the speakers were were given a slot, a 1 hour slot for them to record their session. And my role was to be the producer, make sure they look good, they sound good, they are ready to record, and we hit record. We tell them this is a good take, this is not a good take, and so on. And then everything would be edited in post-production and sent to the program a couple of weeks later. And one day, one of the speakers asked me, okay, cool, so you got my script, yeah? It's like, no, I'm sorry, I don't have a script. So the client quickly sent me the script. I was like, okay, I'm trying to follow what's going on, and the speaker is looking down. You can hear the paper noise and everything. It's horrible. I was like, hold on a minute, send me the script. I'm gonna put it real quick on your screen. And basically everything was done over Zoom. So I ended up putting the script on the prompter view of Shoflo, sharing into Zoom, make sure the little arrow is at as high as possible, so as close to the camera as possible, and it worked beautifully. And the speaker was basically reading a script like normally, remotely, thanks to Shoflo, and it was done totally last minute. And the clients asked me to do many more of them since. For this show, we ended up doing a lot of them like this because it was the right way.
That's
great.
That might have been
the question times.
That might have been right before you set up the feedback session with me on Prompter and had like 100 suggestions for me on Prompter. If you go back a slide there, so yeah, that's been another one that I think has been a really interesting problem space with the Prompter. When we're back there, basically this idea of like how do you get the prompter in front of the remote presenter? How do you let them read comfortably, but get it up as high as you can, possibly, right in front of the lens and stuff like that? We're taking shots at that. I think they're pretty good shots. Being able to do we now have the remote prompter function, or feature. So if you haven't tried that out, you should try it out. But basically, it allows you to take the main prompter system that Shoflo has had already for a while, and you can actually just share a URL anywhere in the world and to as many people as you want. And all they have to do is open up in a browser and instantly turns it into a remote prompter screen. And so if you scroll forwards, backwards, wherever you want to go, it's going to keep up with them. And so we're getting really good, awesome feedback on that already. So you got to try that one next time too, Augustin.
Totally. Yeah, man.
You bring in the prompter, so. Well, cool, dude. Killer job. Thank you so much. Some of the questions that have been coming into me, and I ask you directly, would just be, how are you helping ensure that these remote presenters are kind of in a good setup? Is that more of like you're emailing them and giving them sort of like a guidance system in terms of, hey, we want, don't be with your back against a window to where you're in silhouette mode. Do you send out kits ahead of time or anything like that? Or is it mostly just scheduled time in the hour or so before show and the rehearsals, quote unquote, to just kind of help them guide through? Like, how do you ensure the presenters hit a certain quality of sort of excellence?
Yeah, that's one of the big questions we're working on with Go Remote. That's essentially what we do, basically, to make sure the speakers look good and sound good and are confident. With Go Remote, we've developed, or we are in the process of developing basically the first step is to do a automated check, we believe. So the idea is that the speakers are invited to speak, to participate in an event. They just hit this link, and it sends us. We believe Luc at Go Remote is a strong believer in automation, and I'm sure you are too, the way you develop Shoflo. But basically, they hit the link, and we receive all their stats. I want to know what their camera resolution is. I want to know what headset they're using, what bandwidth they have. I want to ping the router that I want to use for this show. All these things, they don't need to do that. It can all be automated. So that's basically the first step. And the idea is that when you have 1,000 speakers, you're not going to be able to spend one-to-one time with them. It's just too much. It's going to take too much time and cost too much money. So we can already assess this, pre-assess, let's say, and have some kind of rating And all the 5-star and 4 stars, we assume they're all good to go, and maybe we'll focus on the 0, 1, 2, potentially 3 stars that we need to go then a bit deeper. And then this is 1-to-1. We end up, so we did the Paris Peace Forum, 250 speakers with Go Remote, very VIP from Richard Branson, Melinda Gates, John Kerry, and all sorts of presidents and ministers. It was very nice. And we ended up doing all the pre-checks of most of these speakers beforehand. It was intense again. It was a team of 20 virtual stage managers doing this. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you do it in 5 minutes. I think the world record for the Paris Peace Forum was 6-minute brief. You brief them on what the event is going to be about. You make sure everything is good. 6 minutes, beautiful. For some of them, we spent 3 1-hour slots. So 3 hours, because they had all sorts of issue, port issue, my firewall, I cannot download the software, I don't know. Everything, when everything goes wrong, everything goes wrong. And you do need, Go Remote is GoRemote.team, because we believe the team is what is going to make the difference. You don't want to have a technician there. You want somebody who can address Richard Branson or his assistant and make sure that they are going to do the right things to make it right. And of course, have the strong technical background to go in these settings and can you tweak this little thing? Can you you try to make them, they're alone, locked down at home, so they need to be told what to do, but with the right manner.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm a part of like a show callers forum or whatever, and that's been one of the things that has been a topic is, traditionally producers, their skill sets were more so soft skills in terms of being able to handle presenters, help them, get from different locations to others, collect, capture concerns, things like that, and ultimately, be a part of the production team that's helping push people on and off the stage, do whatever. Switching into the virtual event, the show caller or the green room producer, which is a role that's kind of come about a lot more. It actually requires a blend of like a little bit of tech comfortability, being able to talk about, computer settings, access to microphones, going into your system settings of your Mac or, things like that. And that's been a big dialogue, and to see that shift, because traditionally a producer would have just called in from backstage, one of the AV engineers, the video engineers, and he would have come out and wouldn't maybe have no client, facing skill sets, but would have just come out, fixed the settings, plugged in the dongle and moved on. But now that's kind of, some of those roles are blending and merging into the producing roles, et cetera. So it's been interesting to see all that go.